afternoon, and thanks for joining us. I'm Judy Simpson. Last year, Congress approved and President Obama signed the 2014 Farm Bill. It authorized a new program for dairy farmers that is now entering its second year. Today, we're going to find out more about the Farm Bill's Dairy Margin Protection Program, or MPP, as it relates to dairy farmers. And dairy farmers ought to pay attention. There's a deadline of September 30th for farmers to make decisions about their participation in the program's second year. Joining me are two experts on dairy policy and economics. Bob Parsons is an agricultural economist for UVM Extension, and Paul Remillard is the district director with the Vermont Farm Service Agency. Thank you both for coming in.
Thank you, Judy.
Happy to be here.
Now, the 2014 Farm Bill provided a big change for dairy farmers, the Margin Protection Program. Bob, what is the MPP and why is it different for dairy farmers?
The Dairy Margin Protection Program replaced previous programs, and this is a little bit different because farmers have to pay to play now. And they have an insurance program that they have to choose how much insurance they would like to cover, and it's called returns over feed costs. And they get to choose their area of selection, and that requires them to pay into the program.
Well, tell us how the program works.
And the way this kind of program works is that a farmer can pick coverage from $4 to $8 return over feed costs. And this is, they pick a level and they say, well, I'd like to guarantee $6.50 return over feed costs. And whenever a 2-month pay period comes in, the USDA announces the all milk price for that period. And they also announce a formula for feed costs as formulated by Congress in this bill. And if that return over feed cost drops below their insured level, they get an indemnity payment from the USDA, but they also pay insurance for that. So if they, for example, take out insurance level at $6.50 coverage return over feed costs, and the official return over feed cost comes in that month at $6, they would get a 50-cent indemnity payment. Mm-hmm. So that way they have to pay for this, but that's how they have to make the decisions, and they have to make the decision ahead of time on that.
And why the change on making the farmers make this kind of decision versus how it used to be?
Well, it's, I think, more of a trend to get farmers more involved in making risk management decisions on their own, and that they are involved in part of the process. And also, I think there's more of a mentality in Congress that we're not just handing out things. We're going to be a partner with the farmers, but they're going to have to pay part of it also. It's not just free subsidies that go out to the farmers.
Mm-hmm. So, Paul, who is eligible to participate in this?
Well, any dairy operation in Vermont that produces milk and markets it commercially is eligible.
Mm-hmm. And so, Bob, how did the program work in its first year?
It's been maybe a mixed success depending on how you look at it, but we've had very few times that the return over feed costs has dropped below the top level of $8 insured. So we've had very few farmers in Vermont that actually took out the maximum insurance, but we did have 63% of the farmers in Vermont that were participating in the program, and that's varied from state to state across the country.
Do you think that's good?
I think it's very good because it has the farmers thinking a little bit. It goes, what should I do? What would happen if I could do that? Now, of course, they took out various levels of insurance, and it's of course, the less insurance you cover, it's a little bit like your fire insurance and your car insurance. Mm-hmm. You make the decision of how much you want to cover.
So it's kind of like a gamble.
No, it's not a gamble. You're taking insurance out to protect yourself against that milk price being a disaster. It's not your gamble. If you decide not to take insurance on your car insurance and you're in a wreck, is that a gamble or is that maybe a stupid risk?
Yeah, exactly. Paul, how does someone register to participate in the Dairy Margin Price Protection Program?
Well, if you were in the program in 2014, you need to remain in the program for the life of the Farm Bill. Mm-hmm. And so each year you need to come in by the deadline. And this year's deadline, as you stated, Judy, right up front, is September 30th. So farmers can come in by September 30th to pay at a minimum, their $100 administrative fee that were in the program, or they can elect to buy up coverage by that date. And those farmers who didn't participate in 2014, who wish to do so for this upcoming year, can come in by the deadline.
Mm-hmm. And so the Vermont farmers need to contact their county farm service agency office, and they can also check the FSA website, which is listed on the screen, or they can call the State Farm Service Agency office in Colchester at 802-658-2803. Now, Paul, to be in the program, farmers need to sign up by September 30th?
Yeah, that is the date that we know right now, yes.
And so what's the cost to participate in the program?
Well, like I mentioned earlier, there's at a minimum of $100 administrative fee, and for those individuals looking for buy-up coverage, that would be a premium that they would calculate, but the way that they would do that, they need to come in and talk to the FSA office, any one of our 9 local offices, or contact the number of our FSA state office.
And so, Bob, what coverage levels are available under the margin protection program?
Okay, they're set at 50-cent increments, so you can carry everything from $4 to $8, so $4, $4.50, $5, $6, and of course, as you want more coverage, the costs go up a little bit more, and the lower rates are subsidized more than the higher rates. It's a little bit like on your car. Do you want to carry $1,500 deductible, $1,000 deductible, $500 deductible, or $250 deductible on your collision? The less that you're carrying the risk for, you're going to pay more to the insurance company.
Do you know the farmers who are participating, what averages they're coming in at?
Most of the farmers have been carrying rates between $6 to $6.50. Very few have gone above that because rates do get a little bit higher, and the farmer makes that decision: how much do I want to pay due to how much I can carry myself?
And can they change that year to year?
Yes, they can.
So, Paul, if a dairy farmer is enrolled in 2015, can they opt out for 2016?
Well, you can change your coverage level each year, but you need to, at least at a minimum, pay a $100 administrative fee for the life of the farm bill. But each year you can make a decision on what level of coverage you wish to choose.
And if a farmer does not complete all the forms on time, what happens?
Well, you'd be remaining ineligible for the program until you pay it. And then when you pay your administrative fee, at that point, then you can seek a premium coverage.
Are there any major changes for 2016?
There is a couple changes from the previous year. First one is that you have the entire year to pay a premium if you select to choose to do so. So if you sign up by September 30th, you would have until September 1st, 16 to make sure that that premium is paid in full. And also this year, you can pay on a monthly basis if you choose to do so through your milk company, and that would require you to come to the FSA office and sign the necessary forms to do that.
It sounds like there are a lot of options then.
There's a couple more than we had last year as far as payments, definitely.
Okay, so Bob, if a farmer now participates in the Livestock Gross Margin Program for dairy, can they also participate in the MPP?
They can't participate in both programs, and the one kicker on this is that once you're in the MPP, you can't get out of the MPP and go to Livestock Gross Margin. But we have particularly a lot of the larger farmers that are above the 4 million pound maximum amount for coverage, that have decided to go with the livestock gross margin, which gives them a little bit more flexibility, and they can also get more coverage for more of their milk.
And is that the major difference between the two?
That is the major difference between the two. The livestock gross margin, you have to make some more decisions. It's a little maybe more complex, but it's also can handle any pound of milk, any level of milk production, whereas the margin protection program is basically set for people producing 4 million pounds and below, because that's the maximum number of pounds of milk you can cover.
And so will producers need to have conservation programs in order to participate in margin protection program?
Yes, there is a conservation form that I think Paul could probably fill in a little bit more on at the FSA office.
Yes, and that's called an 80-1026. That needs to be on file and current, and all farmers who would come in and participate in the program need to have a current form on place.
What are we seeing so far for milk prices this year, Bob?
Milk prices this year have been running, mailbox milk price has been $17 to $18 per hundredweight. The big part of it is that is, 30% less than what we had last time this year. But last fall, we had record milk prices. We had record exports, and right now we have milk production has been increasing. We've also had a decrease in some export markets. Russia has decided not to export milk or import milk from the United States or from Western Europe. China has cut back on some of those. So we're really in an international market, and it's really interesting. You can be a small farm in northeastern Vermont, and the milk price that you're getting is very dependent upon what's going on in Ukraine or the financial situation in China.
And so how is that impacting farmers, do you think, here?
It's tougher than what it was last year. Of course, it always goes whenever you go from the period of record profits back to maybe what is more of a normal period. So it's made things a little tougher than what it was last year. And it's never easy to be a dairy farmer with you got fluctuating milk prices while your feed prices have been going. So overall, it's not the best time, but we've had a lot worse times when we had periods back in 2009, 2010, and 2011 there.
And so this new program, this MPP program, is going to help with that?
It helps absorb some of the risk, and that is we have to realize there's a changing tone in Washington, and this was a program that Congress came up with, and the old program was dead, and it had no more support, the milk income loss contract, and it was just a direct check to the dairy farmers, and they said, no, we're not doing that anymore. And this is, you really want to dig into this, that our congressional delegation worked hard trying to get things for smaller scale dairy farmers, and this is what they come up with. Mm-hmm. It's not the most perfect, but this is what they were able to come up with. But I think it's still far better than others that it does provide a dairy farmer an opportunity to carry some insurance to protect himself against disasters like we've had in some previous years.
Mm-hmm. And so what's the first thing a farmer should do if he or she is thinking about participating in this program?
Well, the first thing is right back from what you were saying at the beginning, Judy, is to contact any one of our local FSA offices or contact the number on the screen for our state office if you don't know which office you're working with, and it's talk to the FSA and make sure that you visit the office. Mm-hmm.
And so what are some of the main things that the farmer should consider when they're considering this program?
One of the things they need to consider is really how much what level of coverage and the cost, and seeing how much can I absorb this much of a loss, can I absorb, how much can I operate with, and how much can I afford for coverage, and what would I really be in trouble with if I didn't have some coverage if milk prices drop below this certain level.
It sounds like it's pretty flexible as far as what the farmer wants to do.
There are different flexibilities. If you don't want to spend much money, you take the $100 administrative fee and take your bottom level coverage at $4. If you want a $4 return over feed costs, that does protect you against a real ultimate disaster. Mm-hmm. But a lot of farmers probably need more than that to operate, and so you may want to take the $650 level. You may want to cover the $7, but you decide, whoops, I don't think I can afford that, so I'm not taking a risk there.
Now, we talked about feed costs, and that's something that's been fairly constantly high in the past couple of years.
Feed costs have come back down because we had record high grain prices from 2007 to 2012, what I call due to ethanol. And since then, we've actually seen quite a decline in corn prices and in soybean prices. If you're a grain farmer in the Midwest, you're not as happy as what you were several years ago. And a lot of them are producing grain this year below cost.
Wow.
So grain prices are not holding up. We've had some record yields. We had another good yield this year. We've, exports are down a little bit again, and that counts to a strong dollar. And all of a sudden, we're in a world economy again. And so this gets to be a flip side and other things. But actually, feed costs have been a lot more reasonable as what they've been since 2007 for most of our dairy farmers here in Vermont, which is good for here.
Right.
If you're a grain farmer, you're not so happy about it.
And so let's just remind folks once again where they can learn more about the Margin Protection Program for dairy.
Again, at any one of our 9 offices, or contacting the number on the screen for our FSA state office if you don't know what office you're being served under. And also there's a website which would give a breakdown of our office locations and numbers.
And once again, the deadline is?
September 30th.
And Bob, what are some of the things that you want to make sure that farmers who may be watching this take away from this program?
Well, they need to know that the date is sign up. They need to stop and think a little bit. Maybe last year, did I have the right coverage level? I didn't get the draw on it. But milk prices, they need to take a look a bit. They can contact Extension and work through a decision tool of looking at the probabilities. And next year we could have a dry year that could drive up feed prices. We could lose a little bit more of export markets, and that could bring down milk prices. And whenever it goes both ways, the margin is really hit pretty hard in the middle. So there's 2 things can go bad, and that is milk prices falling and feed prices rising, and if they hit both at the same time, that margin really shrinks, and then the farmers, that really affects their cash flow on a monthly basis. And so they have to take a little bit look at and say, what can I afford and what can I do? And they need to keep in touch with the Farm Service Agency to keeping up with the rules, keeping up with the dates, and knowing when those bills then might come due.
Right, exactly. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
That's our program for today. I'll see you again next time on Across the Fence.